Welcome. Today I want to talk about creating a new global consciousness or mindset. And I really want to focus on the word mindset and not consciousness. I'm using that in the title because I know that this is the popularized idea. When I talk about consciousness, consciousness is. It was here before us, is here now with us, and it will be here long after we have gone extinct, evolved to something else, or whatever may happen to the human race. Consciousness is not new. Consciousness is. It is that deeper intelligence that's beyond human understanding, because I don't presume that human understanding can explain everything. And it simply is here. What I think a lot of people should really be focusing their understanding on is we are trying to create a new global mindset. And really, we are trying to create a global mindset for the first time. We've never been, as far as history shows us, never been an 8 billion person community that has to think globally about all of our individual choices. Think about that for a second. That is a massive amount of coordination that we have never done. And we have to think differently. And part of the thinking change that we're going to have to look at is community versus the individual. And I think that's kind of the root of these things, is how much do we support individual prosperity versus communal prosperity, because they're not always aligned. And we can't always make them be aligned. Before I go further, I'm Jim Tolles. I've been spiritual teaching since 2010. Please visit my blog, spiritualawakeningprocess.com, and feel free to sign up to my free newsletter. It's down in the description. I believe this is an important topic to talk about, having a new global mindset, a mindset that's based off of things that we're already hearing lots of people use words for, like sustainability and balance, harmony with the natural systems of this world. This makes sense. It makes sense because the natural systems of this world are about 4 billion years ahead of us. Just intellectually, this makes sense. It's like, okay, these things have figured themselves out way better than we're going to figure out in the next 100 years. And because there is so much stress being put onto the system of human beings, as well as the ecological environmental system, it's pretty urgent that we change the mindset away from what can the individual get for him or herself to how do we engage with natural systems. One of the simplest places that we start to develop that mindset is with ourselves, with the spiritual path, and giving up our beliefs about ourselves. Because our beliefs have nothing to do with natural systems for the most part. Maybe you grew up in a family that was a little bit different, and then fantastic, build off of that. But still letting go of the egocentrism of our attachments to ourselves and to our beliefs. Because we have to want to be able to see reality, and we're going to have to be able to make trade-offs. There are a lot of hard choices that we're going to have to make, hard compromises. And currently, it seems like we're on this divisive road, particularly here in the US, where we're just living in these black and white worlds of like, it's right or it's wrong, it's my way or it's not. And, if it's not my way, then it's wrong. And the level of discourse has gotten more and more heightened and desperate, which is a sign of people not doing well. If you're doing well, you don't need to be yelling at people online or on your podcast or ghosting people or running from any sort of difficulty that ever happens or cutting people off in traffic, or all these sorts of acting out that people are showing, or the acting in, where people are being more and more violent towards themselves. What does that mean? Violent towards themselves doesn't just mean you're trying to commit suicide. That's the extreme end of the spectrum. It is all the different things that we do to hurt our bodies, like alcohol. People are drinking more alcohol or more substances or working too long or having too many adventures or doing extreme sports, right? All those types of things are an attacking in. That's a lashing in. Right? And so that's actually a violation of our natural systems of how the body is going to be healthy. And so it puts stress on them further. which makes people tend to feel worse. It becomes a downward spiral. So part of what I'm offering for all of you to consider as we try to talk more communally, right? I'm not saying you need to believe what I'm saying, but this is how compromise starts, is leaders offer ideas and communities discuss them. And then you come together to decide, how they get implemented. But we need to start to appreciate more and more natural systems. And one of the most basic places to start is your body. Your body is always here right now. So you don't have to think, well, how do I fix the environment around me? How do I make the business more conscious? How do we do all these different things that we know need to change? Some of you'll probably be engaged with some of those systems, and that's fine. But the better you understand your own internal system of how to support your body and you feel in good health, the way you respond in community changes. A healthy human being responds very differently in community than an unhealthy human being. The more unhealthy a human being is, the more it becomes about that person because they're just trying to get healthy, get safe, feel better. And that's not inherently wrong, but when we're so chronically sick with stress, with poor nutrition, with poor sleep, with poor breathing, not drinking enough water, putting toxins in the body, not being active in enough ways, not having a community of people who can hear and support us, right? When we're sick on all these levels, things are going to break down and people are going to pull in and become more selfish. And that is one of the worst parts of today's mindset. And not only that, Western culture actively encourages the selfish mindset. We need to start to create a communal, global mindset, and that is not a small thing. And again, we can start with our bodies because this is a community. It's a community of not just your cells, but of bacteria, fungi, viruses, of all sorts of things. And we don't understand a fraction of how they're all talking to each other. It is massive. But we do have things like how we breathe. Breath by James Nestor is a wonderful book for those of you who have never really thought about how you're breathing. I mean, most of us, we say, well, I know how to breathe. And then you read about like 3 chapters and it's like, wow, I've never thought about breathing in this way, but it makes sense and I should be doing that, right? Nasal breathing being one of the big things because this is a filtration system. This is not. And this is the beauty and the simplicity of it, that you don't have to come up with the next big idea. I don't know how many new big ideas we need. I do know that we need to let go of ego enough to address things that we already know how to address. And the healthier we are, the easier it is to be in these conversations around how do we restructure our cities? How do we move from a mindset of constant consumption and growth to one of balance and closing the loops of recycling so that things that were used can be reused endlessly? Right? Some of this, I don't know how much technology plays into it or not, because technology itself has proven itself to constantly have more trade-offs and downsides than we realized when we first invent something. This is a whole other topic for a whole other time. We do need a new global mindset, and it's going to be really our first global mindset to try and bring 170 whatever countries together and 8 billion people together to start to focus into a new way of living and to draw upon other nations outside the Western sphere who have plenty of great ideas and plenty of great practices that they can teach back to us, because Western culture has become so sick, focusing on the individual, focusing on constant doing, consumption, growth, right? This is not sustainable. We need time for rest and regeneration. We do need time for some things to be let go of, right? The dying cycles that we have no appreciation for and we fear very deeply. We need to make space for things to end and to end well. There's a lot here. But doing your part and letting go of your ego is so foundational. In so doing, it makes it easier for you to start to come into that communal mindset. And again, just starting with yourself, and your body is this amazing community. How do you learn to listen to it? How do you learn to serve it? Because as you listen and you serve for yourself and you feel better in yourself, through all these different things that you can do, just in the simplest levels, that mindset goes into this new mindset that we need to create globally of how to listen and how to be service to one another.